Welcome to the Scene Weekly podcast, where we harken back to our college debate days and pick two movies of the same theme to get deloused in only your flute and meatballs to enter the clink with ever a glance over your shoulder. This week's episode is focused on jail and prison movies, with the longest yard going for it on 4th and 126 against the Shawshank Redemption. Have you heard of that one? You know, the one with Morgan Freeman, Ten Robbins, and they all talk a lot. It's about jail, things of that nature. But come join Jonathan and Steven for another week of hopefully less plot chatter and copious more film banter. We are Scene Weekly, and welcome to our world. I feel like it's been a while since we actually had one of these properly.
Yeah, it's we got to shake off the cobwebs here. It's been like 3 weeks since we last did a proper podcast, but we're back.
We are back. Again, I'm just making this song up. So, how are you? How's life?
I'm doing well, man. I got through these prison movies. Like, we talk about doing the same theme, but these two movies are widely apart.
Are they?
In many respects.
You think so?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I think so. We can get into it. But
what makes them so apart? Do you think? But we should get into how's life? How's your life?
Life is good, man. Life is good. It was a busy week at work. I work in a restaurant, and the dishwasher broke. This is the first time this has happened.
The person who is actually the dishwasher, or the physical appliance?
Yeah, when I say broke, I'm not saying somebody broke their arm or broke down in a mental anguish, which could happen. But no, it's
I feel like it needs clarification.
Thank you. Yeah, the machine broke. And so I had to basically set everything up and wash everything by hand. And that was fun. So
Anthony Bourdain started as a dishwasher in old Provincetown. Seems like that's a reasonable way to maybe get back into the game. Relive the original love of the industry.
It definitely didn't reignite any love. That's for sure.
It didn't cleanse your soul.
Maybe I'll write a novella about the one night in dishwashing hell.
Let's do it. Actually, your prison time as a dishwasher.
Yeah,
would that be your job? In prison?
Prison, yeah, I would probably go for I mean, I know it pretty well now, so I could definitely. I'm not going to be cooking any books or laundering money, so I might as well just scrape food off of plates.
I have to ask you a very serious question.
Sure.
In terms of your life at home, are you the type of person who puts the plates in the sink and just maybe somebody will get to it, although that you are that person, or do you put it in the dishwasher immediately? What is your go-to?
So I have this this fixation. I don't know if it's a weird thing or a lot of people do it, but I can't go to bed to sleep at night with dirty dishes in the sink. I have to. I don't like waking up to that. I don't like waking up.
When's the last time you woke up to it?
Oh God, I can't remember.
Is it like a
Probably
nightmare?
When I had roommates.
Wow, it's been a long time.
Yeah, same thing. Like I can't leave my home without my bed being made. Like it's just not a thing. Not a thing I can do. What about you? Do you leave dishes in the sink?
The human beings that leave dishes in the sink, they have to be college students. And if you're not if you're a grown adult and you have your own place, I just have all bad things to say about you and your life. Like, basically, I mean, it's a completely egregious act. And I think if you're married to somebody, especially with children, you're a moron. And I don't. To me, it's like, I have a good analogy actually after traveling to Atlanta this past weekend, which was a shocking event to some things in my head, but one in which was I just do not understand why people wear shoes in their house. And
you've brought this up before, yeah.
And I just, it was, first of all, I was shocked that my own friends.
Are slippers okay? I'm wearing slippers.
Those are fine. Those are dandy. Now these are my white friends. I have a lot of non-white friends, but these whiteys, they just wear shoes in the house, and I don't know what to do because I never wear shoes in the house. And Like, what do you do in this situation? Do you wear the shoes? Just as we were talking about, I went to the kid's birthday party. That I understand. You wear shoes, but in a normal situation, I guess you have to wear shoes as well. Anyway, I needed a dishwasher to clean my floor, or floor washer.
Is the main feature of the floor carpet, hardwood? Like, what are we
Hardwood.
talking about here?
Both had hardwood.
Okay.
Two different homes. Both homes were being tread
Were there
upon with
splinters in the
shoes.
wood? They said, "Hey,
No,
protect yourself at all costs."
no, no. It's
Did they
right on
just
the
break a
right on the
glass?
door. Right on the door. It says "Splinters, beware." And I said,
I can
"Okay, I
understand
guess I have
that.
to wear my shoes now." No, but these two movies are the greatest combination that we've had. If not, I mean,
You think so?
collectively, yeah. I can't imagine the scores of these two have to be on average better than any movies we've ever rated. I mean, God.
There are, funny enough, and I watched Shawshank first, and then The Longest Yard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there are some direct parallels in both. I mean, yeah, they take place in a prison, so I guess there has to be a warden and things like that. But like, there are some direct parallels that I think The Longest Yard was kind of spoofing off of.
Yeah. What are your
Do you think so?
thoughts? Maybe. What do I mean? First of all, the original movie, which I haven't seen with Burt Reynolds, The Longest Yard. I hear it's good. Don't know much about it. Um, got a rave reviews back in the 70s. What do you think is The Longest Yard? Like, which one?
I mean, it's always got to be the first and goal. You're on the 1 yard line, and you just gotta get it over. That's my idea of The Longest Yard,
You
because
think
it's the
so?
hardest one, right?
You think so? I mean, isn't the first one going to be the hardest? You just got to get going, just take a step, or is that the easiest?
I mean, I would say that's kind of in the middle.
Mm.
Um,
What do you think the
you got
easiest
usually
yard would
soft
be?
coverage.
What do you think the easiest yard would
Soft
be?
soft coverage. They're thinking you're going to do a Hail Mary and you run the ball and you get an easy yard. It's not going to win you the game, but that's going to be the easiest yard, the shortest yard.
So, so soft coverage. What does that mean? That sounds like a gay porn film. Take
It's
my
basically
flaccidity.
it's that's a good point. I mean, you're coming up with all of these great titles referencing possible pornographic films. It's fantastic. But soft
Anything.
coverage, yeah,
Yeah. I've never
yeah.
heard of soft coverage, but I don't watch football. We were watching football UGA game down
Hmm.
in Atlanta, and they're big into their college football. And then I was like, I can't name you a single college football player. And then I was like, I can't even know if I can name a single professional player.
Really?
And then I went to baseball. I was like, I don't think I can name a single baseball player. And then our friend, he was like, "What about the like the guy that hits home runs?" And I was like, "Oh, Aaron Judge. I got one of three sports. Doing well, doing all right."
Yeah, I mean, there are household names, and I mean Tyreek Hill, Tua, Jalen Hurts,
I have heard of
Patrick
Tyreek Hill
Mahomes.
as of yesterday or 2 days ago. I think he had some
He
issues.
got arrested right
Yeah,
before he went to the game.
did he really? For what?
He was literally driving his fancy ass car to Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, and I got pulled over for speeding, and they like pulled him out of the car and handcuffed him and like pinned him to the ground.
What
It was pretty.
for
Yeah,
speeding?
there's
Oh,
videos on.
how fast was he going?
I don't know, but I don't think the cops realized it was Tyreek Hill. But he ended up, playing the game, getting 160 yards and the game-winning touchdown. So, pretty good day at the office after
Yeah, I'd say
being
so.
arrested.
Yeah, soft coverage probably helped him. So, shall I go first? I'm very excited about this week, and just to give you some background, I mean, this has to be noted off the bat, and I would like to take you, fair viewers, into the world that is my brain. Join me. So, I try to, as I was indicating last week, we have sometimes I like to be well in ahead of the weeks and weeks of what is it in front of us in terms of movie viewing, just in case.
You like to
And
plan. You like to plan it out.
well in advance because I like to get to things, and hopefully they like. Anyway, I like to plan. Well, I was on an airplane and I was planning the next episode, and you of course were given. What was the exact terminology you provided last week in terms of carte blanche? I believe
But yeah, you gave me free reign basically to
free
pick
reign.
whatever I wanted. The
And
topic, theme,
uh,
and my movie of choice.
and the reason I did this was to expedite the process. Because I just didn't want to go back and forth. And you chose prison movies, and I was like, okay, prison movies, cool. I can run with this. And then you chose the soft coverage, or maybe you chose the hard coverage. I don't know. I don't even know, like off the wagon, on the wagon. What does that even mean anymore? Like, if you're alcoholic, are you on the wagon or off the wagon?
You're on. You're definitely
You're
on the
on the
wagon.
wagon? Because I think if you're on the wagon,
Yeah.
like if you're off the wagon, that's bad. So off the wagon means you're an alcoholic.
What if you're off the reservation?
You see, that's a different story. I mean,
Different. Okay.
there's a lot of connotations there too. Anyway, so you got to pick both, and your first choice was Shawshank Redemption, and so
That
that
was my
was
only choice. That's
that.
the only thing that I gave you.
Yeah, but that first, still the first, and that's
Yeah.
just a whimsically hilarious choice off the back. It's just like every overwhelmingly, if you look at any top 10 list of any critic in any time period since it has come out, it's there. It's like choosing The Godfather for, coming of age stories or something, or like Italian films, The Godfather. It's like that is the least creative choice in the entirety of this podcast so far. So I decided angrily that I'm going to choose something that you have to sit through because you deserve it, and that's The Longest Yard. I hadn't seen it in a while too. I was like, there's nothing that's going to like top the Shawshank Redemption, in my opinion. You can have little debates here and there, but every critic is going to disagree with you, and I just felt something needed to counter that soft coverage, and I went with the Longest Yard, which this might be the longest yard of this podcast. But anyway, that was my rationale. So here we
I mean,
are.
you came up with the longest yard pretty quickly. I thought I thought you were, well, I think you were joking, but you were also seriously joking.
I was seriously joking.
Tell.
Yeah. There was a moment where I was like, oh, like, do I really want to do this? And I was like, yes, I really want to do this. That happened. I was like, you deserve this.
And we did it. We're doing it. Yeah.
We're doing it live. And would you like to know the synopsis?
I want to know the synopsis. I want to know who's in it. I want to know some of the music that's being played. Like, give it all, Jonathan. Come on, let's talk about The Longest Yard.
We'll get there. So the disgraced football player, Paul, or I should say his quarterback, Paul Crewe, who played by Adam Sandler. Unbelievable role by him, by the way. I mean, just really terrific. Lands in jail where manipulative Warden Hazen, that's his name, strangely enough, recruits him to advise the institution's team in jail. This leads, or turns to a lead role quarterbacking a crew of inmates in a game against a team of prison guards. Nice concept, right? I mean, I like it. Aided by incarcerated ex-NFL football coach Nate Scarborough, brilliant name, Burt Reynolds, who played in the original, as I said before, Crewe and his team must overcome not only bloodthirstiness of the opposition, but also the corrupt officials trying to fix the game against them. Oh, what a layout of the land! And I before we get in anything here, I want some taglines because I was extremely curious of the taglines and how great they would be. I mean, 10 out of 10. It was hard to put a team together until they found out who they were playing. So ridiculous. There's the next one. If you can't get out, get even.
Get even.
Yeah. It's time. It's time to even the score. It's hit or They're so stupid.
Get it out.
Hit hard or go home. I'm a little
People
sick.
are getting paid money to come up with these. I can't believe it.
Every single time we go over taglines, you hear a dad joke and there's a part of you that like it gets the pun and you laugh inside, even though you might not be laughing out loud. This is like worse than that. Like it's not even
On an nth degree.
Yeah, like
Yes.
10% of that. And then it's just like, then you get into the mode of like, is this serious? Like, is this supposed to be taken serious? Because like, I don't think anyone gives a shit about taglines. But why are we reading them? Why do we know about them? And why do they even exist if we didn't? If nobody did? Anyway.
I have no idea. I mean, it's put on the poster and it gives you
Why though?
some
Why are
semblance
the
of the
taglines put on the
stakes.
poster and why are they so terrible? I don't understand. I want to be a tagline. How do you get into the business of taglines? They definitely use computers to do it now. 1990,
You think it's just
2005.
Chat GPT? Like, hey, we got
Yeah.
this movie. Here's the plot. Give us a tagline.
The problem with it is
Could work.
ChatGPT is probably utilizing the longest yard taglines, and he's written and like, this is
And just
exactly what they want. Hit hard or go home. Anyway, The Longest Yard, 117 minutes. Director as Peter Segal. Segal. I like Segal. 2005, it came out, and it's a PG-13 comedy with a 31% on Rotten Tomatoes. Those critics just don't know what they're talking about. Budget, quite big, 90 million, 191 in the box office. Pretty much anything Mr. Sandler touches, I think, turns to gold.
you can do it.
Sometimes it might be fool's gold, but nonetheless, here we are. The introduction to the movie, though, in terms of I don't want to do this, but do you want to do the riff? Are you going to be my girl? Just the start of that movie. What a great riff. I'm not going
This is a great riff. I mean, you got Courtney Cox. You got him driving drunk with a car chase. I mean, funny enough, like with the Tyreek Hill story, Tyreek Hill got pulled out and handcuffed. Adam Sandler gets to like joke around with the cops and make fun of him, and he's off to the races. It's kind of white privilege right there, I guess, huh?
That's 100%
Adam Sandler privilege.
Yeah, Adam Sandler and the fact that it's a movie.
That's true.
Yeah, that's not real life. But we are watching movies. He's hanging out, watching the football game, getting mad at Courtney Cox. They seem to have a very tumultuous relationship. They really acted well and paired well with each other, I thought. Like great.
You thought so? Yeah.
Great chemistry.
Great.
Yeah, they really epitomize, I think, when people are going through a breakup, a bad relationship. It's pretty much everything I've checked off in my box.
You would lock your fiance or wife or what significant other in a closet?
It could be a metaphor for something bigger. I wouldn't just say simply put that it's a physical lock. You got to see more into The Longest Yard, Stephen. There's more going on.
So she's put in jail first.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
In a
and then
tumultuous relationship. Yeah.
Yep. She was in an emotional jail, and then and then he gets locked up, and he can't provide his feelings for football to her, and she doesn't understand that. And then she locks him in the temporary.
We're going deep here, huh?
Yeah. It's a very deep movie. I found a lot of similarities between Shawshank, as you said, in The Longest Yard. They were significant. Yeah, it was good though.
A lot of people in this movie don't like Adam Sandler's character because he possibly could have thrown a game.
Yeah,
in his NFL career.
Yeah, off the bat, we don't know if it's a toss game, but eventually we find out.
It's kind of like did Andy kill his wife or not? Did Paul throw the game or not? Like I'm saying, there's similarities here of the movies we're dealing with.
Extreme similarities. I mean, it's just taken verbatim, and I think they do quite well in their right. The Longest Yard, to my knowledge, was not a book, though. Is that correct?
Did it win an Oscar?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't have my internet up right now, I think. So I'll have to look at it later, but I'm going to go ahead and say possibly.
Okay, possibly.
It's possible. Yeah. Yeah, actually, strangely enough, well, I'll get to it in a second, but nonetheless, I'll go over the cast because I have an exuberant story to share, which I imagine you already know where this story is going to go, but we have a Chris Rock, we have a Joey Diaz, we have a Bob Sapp, which I'll mention in a second, of course, Adam Sandler, and I could pretty much just go on every single major character in this movie. Tracy Morgan, like it's just an unbelievably stacked. Nelly.
probably not.
I'm not even lying. I'm not even exaggerating. I will uh what is that? Unshun. I will unshun myself. It's an Office reference if you're not getting it, but nonetheless, he surprised me. I've only seen this movie a few times, but he surprised me in his acting chops because I don't know if this is his first or last role, but he was terrific. Honestly, he was great. Shun. Um, but I like the setup. I like the setup of him being a criminal, or at least someone who's willing to bend the rules and to jokingly live throughout his life. It's a tough life to live. Going from the big time, being a very well known athlete, and one in which like as a quarterback, I think Adam Sandler's not too tall, so like going into the movie, I was like, how does he pull off like being a quarterback? And he does, did well. He's been a
Yeah, I
football
mean, you
player
get
in a
short
couple movies.
quarterbacks.
Yeah, like who?
That's-
As if I know.
yeah, I mean, come on. I think Drew Bledsoe's not that tall. Doug Flutie, I don't know. There's some other. Tua's not that tall, but these are just names. I'm saying you have no idea what I'm
Drew
saying.
Drew.
Just
Hey,
words.
who's the Saints? The old Saints quarterback. I think he's 5'11".
Yeah, Drew Bledsoe. Or no,
That
no.
that's not Drew Bledsoe. It's I
Well,
don't know who it is, but the guy didn't he retire? I don't know what
Drew
I'm talking.
Brees. Come on, Drew
I don't know
Brees.
what I'm talking about here, but nonetheless,
This is not a sports podcast,
I have a
believe it or not.
I have a question though. Do you like harmonicas?
I had a harmonica given to me as a gift
Hmm.
one year as a stocking stuffer.
From whom?
Um, Santa. It was from Santa. It was a stocking stuffer. It's who puts things in the stocking. But it didn't come with any instructions. Um, so I just blew on it, and it made sounds, and I thought it was fun. And yeah, 6 months later, I probably never touched it again.
That's
Thanks,
not
Santa.
not dissimilar, I guess, to my own story. I got a harmonica, maybe from Santa, but it's like a cool thing to have for like. It's almost similar. Have you ever played with mercury in your hands before?
Mercury.
Yeah, not the planet. Just to be
Um,
clear,
like the no, I don't think I've ever played with mercury before.
this is probably Neanderthal. So playing with mercury is allegedly very dangerous to your health. So you can actually, like the old thermostats, like you can break them open and it has that little, it's got the little silver metal mercury in it.
I don't know. I never broken a thermostat to get the mercury out. Like, what do we?
Have you seen a thermostat box about 20 years ago,
Yeah,
30?
yeah.
Have you ever taken that box off?
Nope. Didn't want to break it. I like being cool.
I thought you were through being cool.
Sometimes I like to be cool. I don't succeed,
God,
but you know.
I was so excited about that comment that I was like, this is amazing. Before I say this. So if you take off that box, I'm eventually going to get to the comparison, I guess. If you actually get, I don't even know what the comparison is anymore. If you get to that box, you take it off and you play with mercury. Yeah, it's a liquid metal that moves around in your hand and you can twirl it around and it's fantastic. And now the comparison is escaping me. We went too far into like through being cool, but what were you saying?
We were talking about the harmonica and
Harmonica.
how it
There,
it
I
can
got it.
be disposed after 6 months of use.
It has to me, a harmonica has the shelf life of playing with mercury. It's cool for about 5 seconds, and then you realize you're not going to do anything with this anymore. You're done. Like, this is a cool sound. Cool. Bye.
You're
Like,
not
you're
going to
not
be
going to get.
Bob Dylan.
Yeah, you're
It's
not going to be really good at it. Well, I mean, I guess you can go and just be hyper addicted, but it's not like a guitar, if you will. But I have a question. Do you know Bob Sapp or who Bob Sapp is?
he's the big guy in the longest yard, right?
He is. He is that guy. But do you know who he is?
Yeah, he's a kickboxer, mixed martial artist, former American football
Are
player.
you reading that right
Um,
now?
he, he was born in Colorado Springs.
What's his birthday?
329 pounds. Yeah,
That's by
I'm
the
looking
way.
at it.
Yeah, that's by the way. That's shortchanging him, old Bob. If you check out his MMA record, I know Bob pretty well. He fought in the Pride days. I shouldn't say he fought, but he legitimately he has the strangest career of anyone in MMA history. Maybe like Crazy Horse does, but Charles Bennett, like I think he's got the weirdest record in MMA history. And if you have Wikipedia open, like you can scroll down and see what it's like. But I will go
I'm
ahead.
looking at it. Yeah.
I will go ahead and tell you what it's like. If memory serves, or if I'm just guessing, I think he lost like 22 of his last fights in a row. Like something exorbitant. It might even be in the 30s, but it's extremely high. And to the extent that basically he was just throwing fights in Japan and other places. But like if you see Bob Sapp, you can pretty much just guess. He is the largest of human beings who is completely doped to his gills. And 320 would be an understatement. And I mean, he's been as like 350, 380 before. And known for throwing fights, right? Gets paid for it
Okay.
and seems to have the most pillow-like fists imaginable until he doesn't. So he's getting his ass beat in many fights, but when it comes down to it, he actually beat a K1 world champ, Hoost, Henry Hoost. No, that's the coach, Hooft. Anyway, I can't remember his name, but he was a legitimate K1 champ. K1 is a kickboxing world champ, a legitimate like world class person, and beat him. And that's how like he became. And he didn't become famous because of that, but he was on the scene before. But boy, did he get known for throwing some fights and acting. And I guess he took his acting chops to the actual silver screen itself. But Bob is hilarious interview, and I think he did exceptional on the screen. I rate it 10 out of 10.
He was one of the best parts of the movie. I gotta say.
Yeah. And then I'll go into
I didn't
Joey
know
Diaz's
about that.
story. Joey Diaz is one of my favorite comedians of all time. He's an exceptional, crazily put together person. But he has himself a lovely Cuban man. I actually have him, which I've shown on this podcast before, the blue cheese that go fuck your mother poster. It's right over there.
Yeah.
And I decided, strangely enough, that I was gonna ask Joey 10 years ago, almost in a few weeks. 10-year anniversary coming up. 10 years ago to be the officiant for my wedding. And a lot of people thought this was going to be the stupidest idea. And I was like, what? This is like the greatest idea of all time, motherfucker. And he actually initially said yes. And I went to see him live and I met him in person. And I was like, hey, man, or after actually the wedding. But it was funny because he said yes. He was amped for it. Or maybe he wasn't. I don't know. But we had, a few things planned out. And then I followed up with him later, basically closer to the gig time. And his manager had scheduled him to be basically out of New York State. And I was like, that sucks. But I understand.
Ah, that would have been so cool.
And then he apologized. He's like, wished me well. And I sent him pictures of my wife and I after. He replied as well. He's very nice, very kind. I met him after seeing an Economy show. Right before he walked on, he looked a little nervous, to be honest with you, which was shocking, or not shocking, but surprising to me. But I would be nervous too. He was chiefing either weed or something.
See, this is the thing you need to follow up with 10 years later. We could have had him as a guest on this podcast, and he could have given us the dirty details of The Longest Yard.
We'll have to bring him back for another. He's been in more movies, but I was elated to see him, meet him for the first time, shook his hand, and said, "Love you, brother," and he wished me the best. But that's pretty much the end of the story. But I love Joey Diaz. Just wish he would have been my efficient. And then I asked Neil deGrasse Tyson, and that was an immediate shutdown of nope, he's busy. He's doing Cosmos was the word. And I was like, come on, he's in the city. He can like stumble over here. Nope, he's doing Cosmos. It was like,
were you willing to pay for their time, or was this a pro bono kind of thing?
Yeah, I was willing to pay. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't willing to. It depends on the price. Like
yeah,
both,
of course.
Like,
there's a ceiling.
Neil at the time was just blowing up like massively, so I understand why. But nonetheless, not to get into the non-detailed details.
Well, I do have to share my personal connection to this film, and that is with the lead Adam Sandler, who I
Mm.
had the pleasure of meeting in around 2014, so about 10 years ago.
Oh wow.
Um, I was working at this restaurant in Santa Monica, and we were almost closed. Like you kind of give a snide eye to those people that walk in like
Yeah.
2 minutes before you close, kind of thing. Well, yeah, this guy walks in wearing like sweatpants and a big sweatshirt, and I'm like, oh god, what's going on here?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I realized it's Adam Sandler, and I kind of like, oh, come on in, Mr. Sandler. How can we help you? He's like, yeah, I just want to get a cup of coffee, like an espresso or something real quick. And come to the garden. We have a spot for you right now. Take your time. Take your time.
Yeah.
He's very nice. He took a picture with one of my bus boys. I wish I got a picture with him, but I'm just not that person to ask for that. But yeah, he's a super nice guy.
Yeah, I'm not the person to ask for it either, but there are definitely particular people that I would do it for. And if Adam Sandler, I know he's like the sweetest, kindest human. I would probably do that for him. If I saw, yeah, there's not a lot of people. If Hunter was alive, I would be in his grill. Yeah, I'd probably do it if I saw Adam on the street. When you're like working though, like your manager, yeah, it's also kind of like weird, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's cool.
Anyways, yeah. I mean, I met a lot of. He was one of the like the ones I remember. Like him, Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder,
Don Cheadle.
those type of people. Don Cheadle, had a conversation with him. Old Bob Redford. But anyways, I could go on and on.
I would love to. These are all movie stars, basically.
Yeah. Back to The Longest Yard. What did you think about Terry Crews and his just fascination with McDonald's? Like that was his one joke throughout the whole thing. Is just like everything had to be a joke about a Big Mac or something.
Yeah, it's one of those things that doesn't land the first time, but the 10th time in, you're like, is this funny? I think it's funny. It's funny that they're continuing to go for it, right?
Yeah, you hammer it enough, it's like,
Yeah,
okay.
it'll eventually, they're going to force you to enjoy it, right? I think it's like, it's like this, if you read taglines enough, like by the 10th time doing it, you're like, this is great. Like, I actually do get it now. I think it's very similar to that. It literally, and I'm not even exaggerating. It's literally that. It's not funny until it is.
I agree with that, because I found myself in like,
yeah.
if they just stopped at like 3 or 4, you'd be like, that was just so stupid.
So
but like,
dumb.
yeah, doing it like every time he utters a line, it has to do with like him smuggling some chicken nuggets or whatever. Okay, we get it. Is this product placement? Like, what?
Yeah,
what's going on?
It wasn't funny until it was. Yeah. And did I find it funny at the end? Yeah. And then, was I hoping for more? Yeah. It wouldn't even be annoying at that point, to be honest with you. Come on, go deeper, Terry. You got another one in you.
Go deeper.
Another yard.
What else about this film did you like?
I liked, Sandler could play another sport besides basketball. It seems like he's I mean, let's go back to the Terry Crews line, but you're acting like a real McAsshole is a terrific line. And I had a note in my head, like, so ridiculous. How does that match up in terms of like the prevalent and proficient lines of Shawshank? You think it'd be like a top 3? Like, if you were to insert you're acting like a real McAsshole into Shawshank, do you think it would go well?
I don't think McDonald's was a thing back then, so it would be more of like maybe a Scottish joke.
Let's just say it was a thing. When would you insert it into the film? Where do you think it would go well?
It would definitely be like said like under Red's breath, like when talking to a prison guard or something like that.
No.
You think?
Nope.
Maybe when they're sitting at the lunch table.
Nope. I have your answer, and it's a definite.
You have a definitive answer?
Definitive answer. First of all of this is just coming to me now, so roll with me.
Okay.
Insert, remove obtuse and insert McAsshole.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? You're being a real McAsshole, Warden. What did you say? You're being a real McAsshole. What does that even mean? McDonald's is not even a thing yet? I heard asshole, though. 30 days, bread and water. Like, that's
30
where
days.
that's where it gets in 30 days. You get supersize him. That's where it gets inserted.
I mean, saying somebody's obtuse is not that bad, right?
You think?
He shouldn't get
I think it's a way of like
put in the hole.
I think it's a way of not pretending, but like you're saying you're more intelligent potentially than somebody else by using a larger word that's like
Yeah.
not commonly as used. And then there's a connotation there of, oh, he thinks I'm stupid, huh? You think
Ah.
you're a real McAsshole, something like that. I have a question for you, and it may be one of my last. What do you think 8 cans of shark shit smells like?
Smells like 8 cans of shark shit.
I don't even know what
I've
one
never
can
smelt.
of shark shit smells like. What do you think it does smell like?
It's definitely got a petrified smell to it. I would think. Um, there's got to be some bone like gristle in there. I don't know about like how sharks digest, but maybe some. I don't know. I don't know, man. It's
Could
got to
you
be.
imagine if sharks flew in the sky and birds swam underwater? They just flip flopped. What a weird world that would be.
Oh,
I'm not high, by the way.
that's what I'm wondering. And or maybe you were when you were watching these films. Um,
No. Mm-mm.
but if sharks were flying in the sky, I'd feel a lot safer going into the water. Um,
Yeah.
because I'm not sky surfing.
Maybe
Is
we
that
would just
yeah?
hang out in the water then.
You think so? Is that why
Yeah.
like we exited the oceans and became land creatures? Is because don't wanna mess with the sharks.
Yeah. I mean, could you imagine, though, the shits of the sharks in the sky? That would be atrocious. Nobody would have convertibles.
Well,
It would just not
well, the thing
exist.
is with shark shit, and if it's canned properly, you're not going to smell anything.
That's fair.
So
Do you think they would poop out the cans? Is that what you're saying?
I it depends on how much litter is in the ocean, but it's possible.
Oh my god. I just have to point out Nelly with the toothpick game. There's only 2 people I know who can really manage the toothpick game very well. Nelly and then Benson Henderson, former 155 world UFC champ. He would actually fight MMA like with a toothpick in his mouth, and then like occasionally, like these like internet sleuths would be like, "Did that is a toothpick out right now?" In the middle of the fight, he would go boop and then like stick it out and then back in. It was just like I guess a creature of habit to some extent. But Nelly, nobody really has that toothpick game.
I
You
wonder why
know?
that is. I mean,
Do you think they're always
it's
eating?
they're post eating
Yeah,
is what it is.
got it.
But I we got rid of toothpicks at my restaurant about 6 years ago. We used to have like a nice little display right at the greet stand where people could take toothpicks as they leave, and we got rid of it. And the main reason is because we would have a lot of just plastic and toothpicks littered around the front of the
Ew,
building
disgusting.
uh, throughout the day,
That's
because
gross.
people don't care, and there's a trash can
So you're
right
telling me
there.
they care less about toothpicks than cigarettes? You
Oh, I
know,
mean, there'd be cigarettes too, but we're not handing out cigarettes at the front the front door.
no, I'm saying like people just throw cigarettes anywhere, and then like people just throw their toothpicks inside of a restaurant. Why? Is that
Not inside the restaurant. I'm saying out in the front
so weird?
door area and in the parking
I want
lot.
to meet those people. Like, are they children? Like my child threw the lollipop stick recently, and we went to the playground. Got back to the car, the lollipop stick is gone, and I was like, "Where'd that go?" And she's like, "I basically threw it." And I was like, "We're going back to get this lesson time."
That's
This, you
that's
know,
a good lesson.
when we sat there for longer than needed and found it and threw it away. This is like one of those things. When I was 4 years old, my father, blah blah blah. I hope, but anyway, like the people are littering. Litterers are like some of the worst people on earth. I just don't understand it. Like, just why? Especially the people that are like hikers and litterers. You just need to be like shot, basically.
And that's just kind of like it seems like a oxymoron of a thing. Like, oh, I litter and I hike on the weekends.
Look, you bring it in, you take it out. I have one last comment on this movie, which was terrific. I love the dancing scenes from 3 comments. Dancing scene that gets repeated for Tracy Morgan. What a great addition. You couldn't make this movie, I think, anymore, right? Like, it's gone to the level of like you just can't make it. I think it's slightly egregious or would be seen as much. But I like the constant play. What's the character's name? I don't remember. But Tracy Morgan basically trying to entice him, as being the one of the girls, if you will, in
Miss Tucker.
Miss Tucker,
Yeah,
one of the girls in um, jail. But with that
the
being said,
prison. Yeah,
Spirit in the Sky. You know, I had an ex girlfriend who introduced me to Spirit in the Sky, the song.
some great needle drops in this film.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So that I would say of anything in this movie, the music I've rated exceptionally high. But that great usage in the beginning and at the end. And ultimately speaking, you know, we haven't even gotten into the movie, which we don't have to get into. But basically, lovely, you know, playing against the guards, a lot of disadvantages. Chris Rock ends up, doing one last deed before he hits the
were
spirit.
you? I was kind of like
What
shocked
what happened?
when
Yeah,
when the caretaker Chris Rock dies
yeah, yeah.
from an explosion on turning the radio down.
Yeah.
Um, I mean that I was what?
It made certain
Okay,
sense to
gotta
me. They were in a lot of McTrouble, you know.
that they were, yeah. Um,
But
great film
yeah,
is
excellent. I mean, up there, like if you were to look on any critic's list of movies that revolutionized film and cinema, this has got to be very high up on the list.
Do you think it's weird that Burt Reynolds was originally in The Longest Yard as Paul Wrecking Crew, and then he comes back, and it's not a sequel or a legacy sequel. There's another Paul Wrecking Crew and Adam Sandler, and Burt Reynolds is just another character.
Not at
Kind of
all.
strange.
No, I like it. Just
Like
like,
it, like it.
why? Why are you doing this to us?
I
It's
mean,
fun.
he could have came back as Paul Wrecking Crew, just still in prison, and there could have been another Adam Sandler could have played another character, but no, we're gonna keep it the same, but different.
Well, it's in the cinema world, so I mean, you're thinking it from the perspective of not being in the world. You're just a normal character in that movie.
Okay, all right. Oh, what a weird film. Funny at times,
You know, some may say
off-putting.
some may say off-putting. Oh man, you haven't had your McDonald's today. But anyway, Shawshank was a good one. I've seen this a few times.
You want to get into Shawshank?
I think it had a
You want to get into the?
fairly good screenplay, from what I know and remember. That is.
Yeah, it was based on a writer who is pretty popular, but we'll get into it. How about that? 1994. Oh, look at that! Wow. For all our listeners, there we're seeing the novella of Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption,
Which I read
which
for
is
this
what
podcast.
Oh, interesting. It's
Mhm.
based off that short story. Is it a short story? Novella?
It's a novella.
It's not a
100
full.
110 pages.
Yeah. But yeah, it's directed by Frank Darabont. His first feature film, and what a first freaking feature film he made.
It was okay.
Starring Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins. Had a budget of about 25 mil. Box office 73 million. It really made its money in the VHS rental game and being shown on TBS and TNT over the years. I think it's still being shown on those channels, but I don't have cable, so I can't confirm. Rotten Tomatoes, 89% as of now. But the fun fact is that it's beloved by so many people, which it still carries the top ranking on IMDb in the top 250. It is
Yeah.
a 9.3 rated film. The next film is 9.2. I believe that's The Godfather Part 2 or Part 1. Not sure. But yeah, it's universally loved. And the reason, Jonathan, that I chose this film was because we have to talk about films that are universally loved.
Under
We have to.
um everyone has their reason. It's maybe the first thing that just came to your mind, but it just wouldn't be my first choice, That's all.
Yeah.
It's an easy choice.
Your
Didn't,
first choice is The Longest Yard, but
did,
that's okay.
didn't take much thought.
So
Yeah.
if
Only
if you've
because
never
your
seen The
first choice
Shawshank,
was Shawshank. If I went first, I
if
would
you've
choose
never seen,
Shawshank or The Longest Yard. I
oh,
would
I'm
have.
curious to know, and I'm sure all the listeners are curious to know what would have been like. Just shooting the gun. First text message to me. I didn't pick Shawshank. You didn't know what I picked.
Mm-hmm.
What's your movie of choice for prison in the
Great
Clink?
Escape, hands down. And my immediate reaction is Great Escape, and it is, I guess, I don't know. My mom is in the twilight of her life, and it was her favorite movie. I watched it with her when I was a young chap. I loved it then. Um, Tarantino has high praise for it, of course. Replicated many of the scenes with Leo, like verbatim, quite literally. Huge fan. Haven't seen it in a while, so I would have loved to redo that. I thought, and that was my second one, my second pick. But I chose anger over my heart. I wanted war.
You chose comedy as well.
Yeah.
I haven't seen The Great Escape, so that would have been a pleasure to watch and talk about maybe at another podcast. Why do you think so many prison movies are also escape movies? What's the deal there, Jonathan?
Do you want to be held in jail for an extended period of time? Do you assume that what you have done is just going to be taken lightly or not lightly? Like, are you serious? Don't you? Why would you want to be in jail? In a meaning, like, if you got a
Brooks
six,
wanted to be in jail. He
if
was willing to
because
commit
he
another
had,
crime to be in jail.
he couldn't. How is he going to escape as an old man?
I don't know.
He's given up. Like,
He's institutionalized.
he's given up. And Red, did he try to escape jail after being there for decades? Now, some people are intelligent enough to come up with a nice plan to do so. Some people, when they first get in there, probably want to immediately get out. I guess it all depends on where you are, but sometimes it takes a large amount of time to figure out the holes in a prison system. But why would anyone want to be there, especially if your prison sentence is a very long period of time? Of course, you want to escape. I would want to escape if there was a way to do it. And a lot of the prisoners are a bit delusional. Like, you have to be. Like, I could do this. And also, like, you have nothing to lose. So those are your reasons, I guess. But why do you think?
Besides your life, you get shot, killed.
Which is a good thing. You're out.
You're also out.
Yeah, but you're not in jail anymore. You know?
It's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, here's the if you haven't seen The Shawshank Redemption, you're not doing your homework for the podcast. So I'll explain the brief synopsis. In The Shawshank Redemption, a banker named Andy Dufresne is wrongfully imprisoned for his wife's murder. He spends decades slowly bending the rules of prison life to his will, helping fellow inmates like Red and masterminding a spectacular escape. The film is essentially about a guy who uses his accounting skills and a lot of patience to turn a life sentence into a victory lap, all while proving that hope and perseverance are the ultimate life hacks. And boy, are they. Perseverance is a big thing in this movie with the passage of time. Because we're spending close to what, 30 years already in
20,
this light,
27, I think.
20
But
something years.
yeah, it's a long period of time. And it's a good period of time, I think. There's some violent things that happen throughout with the sisters. But I'll have to say, I have a lot of things to say. but I would say this in particular in terms of the movie itself. I read the book. I've never actually read the book, 110 pages. It was a lovely read. I want to stick to the movie though. I mean, I don't want to be that person that like talks about the differences between the movie and books. It's like so
Yeah, I
so
mean,
silly.
there's different wardens in the book,
Yeah,
and
I like
yeah, there's a
it's
lot of differences.
massive differences. But I will say this. I'll say this in two things. Um, this is gonna shock. The movie's better than the book. I thought, and I've seen. I have to
Interesting.
reread
I
it.
mean, Stephen King even said that this is his favorite film adaptation from his writing.
It makes sense, but the movie and what the differences were actually in almost every single way. Actually, there's 10 major differences, and I think every single aspect to those changes that were added aided to the development of and things they took away, like suicidal Andy at the very beginning. That's why he had the gun. Like, it was like more prevalent in the book. That's one. No,
Yeah.
I wasn't going to talk about this, but like those changes added super complex emotions to the movie itself. But I will say this: overall, the character development and just like immediately getting into characters, but also feeling like you've hung out with this person and you know them like their whole lives. Man, I'd have to really dig into other movies to make an analysis of this, but I think it's probably the best character driven development I've ever seen in any movie. It's like
Yeah.
it's so outstanding. Of like,
And I think a way that they do that is how they introduce at first with Andy, you know that he's got this white collar job, he's a banker. We don't know if he actually killed his wife or not, and all signs point to he did,
yeah,
especially like just the way that he acted in the courtroom and things like that. So we're kind of getting this vague idea of who this character Andy is, and we're not sure if we are supposed to root for him or whatnot. But then we get introduced to Morgan Freeman's character Red, and the play on him analyzing Andy straight from the gun without ever having a conversation with him and saying, "This is the guy. This is the motherfucker that's gonna squeal on the first night.
yeah.
That's the guy." So we as the audience are thinking that that's going to happen as well, but then it doesn't. And that is what builds the base of like knowing who these characters are really, really well.
And it just continues. Basically, that surprise that Andy has for like the totality of his legend, honestly, which builds slow, and that perseverance that he has just it exudes itself on the screen. But I don't know many movies that really have this character development. And one thing I want to mention is the Red being the narrator, which changes throughout actually, like towards the middle and end. But Red mostly is the narrator throughout the film. Who is Morgan Freeman? Like, I mean, goddamn, son. Like, I don't. What other movie is it? Like, I don't know, man. There's not. I don't think there's another narrator better than Morgan Freeman, and in this film.
I agree. I agree. And the funny thing is the director Frank Darabont every day before production would watch scenes from Goodfellas because he loved the narration and that, and he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I want to capture that because of the passage of time and
Yep.
everything like that. And that's what he kind of pulled from to implement for Morgan Freeman here. So it's just, yeah, I mean, the voice of Morgan Freeman, you can't top it, and him doing a narration only
Of a
makes it better. And it's
Stephen
funny,
King
like,
novel. Like, oh my god,
yeah.
terrific.
Did you?
What's funny?
I mean, just the what if kind of casting choices of this movie, and that like they were looking at Clint Eastwood and Paul Newman and Tom Cruise and Tom Hanks is either Andy or Red, because in the book Red was actually Irish, right?
Yeah, he's Irish with red hair. Both characters look vastly different than they were seen by Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins. Vastly.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
I clearly like their choices. Who could have done it well? Who could have done it better? I don't know. Robbins, like, if you read the book, he doesn't look like him, but like he fucking nails it. Like the courtroom scene, if you read the book and then you actually watch the courtroom scene where he's just calm, collected, and just answering the questions factually, like it's like that is verbatim. Also, Morgan Freeman,
Yeah,
the conversation where he's talking about Mexico for the first time, and then he's like, "If you get out," he's like, I've been institutionalized. I've been here so long, I wouldn't even know what I would do." That is like so well constructed in the book and so well constructed in the movie, but it's like it's notwithstanding their differences of appearance, like that. It was like I don't know. I don't know a book. The book is terrific, by the way. That's been so well executed. I guess The Godfather. That's been so well executed to a silver screen than this. I mean, it really is terrific. But even better, which is shocking.
I want to go back to that initial courtroom scene where Andy is, where we as the viewer still don't know, did he do it? All signs point to that he did. He threw his gun in the river while driving away, and that kind of quote where it's like, "Isn't that convenient that we couldn't find your gun?" And he's like, "I actually find it very inconvenient
Yeah,
that you couldn't find the gun."
yeah,
Because it would have proved his innocence.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean, that's also kind of like that could come off as cold and snarky, and it just doesn't bode well for his innocence as well. So, but I love that line. I love that performance that Tim Robbins gives in that scene, because it just still leaves you kind of like, I'm not sure about him.
Especially in the character development, because you're like, he clearly did it. Like it's as clear as day. Like his personality wouldn't be like this. Like there's no way somebody would be this calm, cool, and collected on the stand, unless they're a psychopath that's murdered lots of people or like two people,
Exactly. Yeah.
and unloaded the gun, reloaded it to shoot. I'm laughing, but like I'm imagining it like that's so violent. Like you got a lot of hate in that gun of yours in your life. But anyway, the character development is just terrific.
And when we get a little bit deeper into the film, and uh, Tim Robbins' character finally talks to Red, and you still see that relationship start to build. Red is the guy that can get anything into prison, whether it's cigarettes,
Yeah.
or what was it, a rock hammer,
Yeah.
a poster of Rita Hayworth. But that scene when they're tarring the roof, that's when I feel like we really got to know this character in Tim Robbins. Andy, he showed his true colors of like, yeah, he's smart. He's overhearing this prison, the prison guard with his tax problem. He's going to offer a helping hand in that. And then what does he do? He says, if I do this for you, you got to get us a few bottles of suds.
Yeah.
That way my guys can drink on a hot roof. It just, and you kind of brought up like the idea of like him using the word obtuse to kind of sound a little bit higher. He also used the word suds to kind of like sound a little bit more
I
to the
like
people.
suds, and not for like detergent purposes. Like I would actually like, hey, you want to go get some suds with me? It's pretty cool, right?
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I like it. Do you like? It's kind of like, I guess to some extent, using the word pop. Still cool. I think it's
Yeah.
cool. But to go back to what you just said, and the 25 minutes of character development and how they're meeting for the first time, the book and the execution of the book and the screenplay are just so terrific. It like melts me when I hear these types of things. And I have the quote here, but where Morgan Freeman was the narrator. He wasn't speaking, but it's the narration of the movie itself. He said, "No more than 2 words to somebody," when he was talking about Andy coming in, keeping to himself, and setting up the scene is basically him kind of kicking rocks around and going up to Red for the first time, like feeling him out, and just being direct. And he goes, "No more than 2 words to somebody, and that somebody was me." And just the way it was like presented on how Andy hadn't said more than 2 words to somebody, and I guess through listening to other people talk about Red and what Red could get him, he decided, I guess, Red was going to be the first person, which is a good person to first talk um, to go chat the shit with. And then it's like this insatiable curiosity that Red has for Andy. Like, he's just not doing things that a normal person in jail would be doing. Like, the motherfucker's asking me for a rock hammer. First of all, what's a rock hammer? Like, are you gonna like? He's just like curious, and he's like, I I want to kind of see where this goes, and I like that about Red and the personality of Red, just to see like he's still got some life left in him. It hasn't the prison hasn't taken it from him yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just love that
And he wants
introduction.
to. That's a great. I mean, this movie has one of the best friendships that a movie can have
Don't
between two,
I don't know a
two
better
people.
one. Don't know a better one. Yeah,
Um, and just going on to Red's character, we get to see his parole hearing to get out of jail a few times in this movie. And it's interesting how that develops and how he develops, especially on that last time.
yeah.
But the first couple, it's he's basically telling them what they want to hear, and he's being remorseful, and he's being this guy, and it's denied every time, every time. But through his experience with Andy and everything that's happened that last time is something different, and it's just amazing every time I watch it.
He lost Andy. He lost to some extent. That facade that he had up for so many years, and he just was going to be himself from there on out, and he was, and worked out. Worked out well.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was just himself. Um, Terrific moment. All of that, like that speech that he was giving, was unbelievable. I don't know. There's a lot of just little nuggets here and there that I can go back to probably a billion times. But that's true. Anyway, the multiple narrators, to go back to this, the multiple narrators I didn't think would work well. Like Catch 22 had multiple narrators in the book itself. It's the only book I can think of that actually works well like that. That works really well, I should say. Multiple narrators can be very confusing. For example, and just pick up Absalom or Sound and the Fury, which I love as
yeah.
well. They work extremely well too, but it's so hard at times, especially if you're in the mind of like a mentally challenged person. But like this works so eloquently well. I loved it. The differences between the heads of these humans. Um, but perseverance is
I like that there's
prevalent.
yeah, I like that there's multiple villains in this movie.
Yeah,
Um, I think the main villain is Norton, Warden Norton.
yeah.
Um, but having the sisters as well as like this kind of like uh, you know boss that you have to beat, like it's just it's interesting to see how Andy has to deal with these different levels of villainous people in his life, and how he takes them down too,
Without
which is really cool.
ever complaining.
No, doesn't complain. It put me in the hole for 20 days. Oh, another 20 days? No big deal. That would break somebody. 100%.
Eventually, yeah, but not Andy for those days. It's and it just goes to his perseverance. When he was writing to have the library set up, and in the book, I said I wasn't going to do this. I'm going to do it a second time. In the book, he only wrote one letter a week. I'm sorry, he wrote more letters a week. He wrote 2 letters a week, and in the movie, he wrote one. He said I should have written 2, but that goes to the perseverance of consistency. Really is going to win you the day on anything in life, for that matter. But I have to mention, probably, it's one of those scenes that like is so simple, but the opera scene where he puts on the music and he realizes like
It's one of the best.
he
Yeah.
can like it's kind of like this to me. I see it very similarly to, or even better to some extent, but the introduction to Andy, who he actually is as a person with the suds on the roof when they're tarring. This is
Hmm.
another example of that, and this time he's like really putting himself out on a limb, but everyone felt free in that moment. And in the book, it's so good, and the the movie just terrific as well. Actually, it's so terrific. Like I don't know, the scene is just unbelievable. I really liked it.
I think it's one of the best. It's one of the best scenes in any movie because it explains so much, for such an act that's not violent, that's not that there's no clear, um, you know, nobody's hurt by it.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's an act of defiance that you should never do in a prison setting. But it's so beautiful.
He was given a leash
Uh,
to some extent because he was helping the warden and many others. He was given a leash
yeah.
for which he literally had the potential to give it up, to give that back permanently, and to ultimately maybe having to do everything he did before, but now under complete terror of rain. And he willingly took that choice, and he actively said, "Let's see what happens." Which,
For 30 seconds of
yeah,
bliss.
but in
Yeah.
that 30 seconds of bliss, everyone was they just stopped. It was so good. And then I like the comments were like, "What even was that song?" It's like, did you have to choose? Did you have to choose opera? Maybe
Right, right.
like, could you chose something better next time? That's but that just built. It just continued to build the legend of Andy Dufresne. Lovely.
I love that we get Rita Hayworth back in our conversation
It's
here. We had
never
her
gonna
in.
stop.
It's never going to stop. I mean, poster of Rita Hayworth. Do you think that was a? I mean, it was definitely in the book because that's the title of the book. But do you think it was in reference to Bicycle Thieves and that being the poster? And I didn't see any reference to that in IMDb or anything like that. But I have to believe it is.
I would have to
Could be.
do. I'd have
Who
to do
knows?
like a. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. But do you think hope
Did you
drives a man insane? Do you think hope is a bad
hope?
thing? Mm-hmm.
I think it's a fuel that keeps somebody going.
Hope in jail.
And
Do you
if
think
you don't
that's a good
have
thing?
having hope in jail,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, without it, like what's the point of even being there? Because jail is all about routine,
Yeah.
right? You want to have a routine. You want to stick to a routine every day in and day out, day in and day out. But you also have to have that hope that that routine will break and you'll be able to get out.
Yeah. So to me, I think the opposite. I think the hope is debilitating, and so just embrace the routine. And so don't think about the future. Just embrace that one day at a time. Your hope doesn't is irrelevant. My point, but like having the hope is just like I don't know. It seems like it'd be very debilitating. Like, oh, I hope I get out of here, and then it's just like you're crushed in defeat. Hope crushed. Hope crushed. I think it'd be tough.
Yeah, I see your point there. And I see that in Red's final parole hearing is that he basically gave up the idea of hope
Mm-hmm.
and was just real,
Yep.
and that being authentic, I think, was what they were looking for, and that's what ultimately got him out. But I love Andy telling Red that, hey, if you get out, go to this tree under this rock, you'll find something. And when he tells him that in the movie, there's nothing there under the rock. Like he's basically creating this little treasure map for him, but there's no treasure there until Andy actually gets out and plants it there. And I forgot about that when watching the movie, but I thought it was just a beautiful. And I'll go back. Is that same kind of thing in the book, or how did that work?
Yeah, it's different in the book. That is vastly different. Um, his directions are, to put it mildly, extremely vague in comparison to what it has in the movie. It's like what you read in the book, you'd be like, "There's no, so that's going to be lost." Like, there's no way. And it's more detailed of what's actually in it, like and what he needs to do when he gets there. Because the identification is like 6 years old, and he has to pay a fee to like redo the. Anyway, there's a lot of details there, but no details on how to get there. Strangely enough, um, which is interesting. Um, I have one comment on Morgan Freeman, and when he's narrating and talking about the life inside of Shawshank and like the programs inside, he's breaking the fourth wall, and he's like, "You may have heard about this," like talking to us watching.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was like, it's so good because I was like, is this real? It's did Stephen King actually? Is there some substance of reality here? And then it just was a mind fuck from there on out. I was like, wait a second, is this a true story? Or like some of it was true, but I love that moment, and I don't think there was maybe there's one or two of those, but I know there's one where he's like, "You may have heard about the program," and I'm like, "Are you talking to me, Morgan? Me, who? Like, who are you talking to? Me or what? What? This is
It was
weird."
it was like a Ferris Bueller kind of like breaking
Yeah,
the third
yeah,
wall
but
in front of the camera
like very
subtly.
under the table. Yeah, very subtle. That I wanted to go back to that moment and just like it got me very curious. I stopped the movie and I started looking up stuff, and I was like, I need to stop doing this. But one of my favorite quotes is, "I had to come to prison to be a crook." Was just
Yeah.
so good. My God. Do you have any
My
favorite quotes?
yeah, I mean it's the quote for me of the movie, and it's one that's after watching it, you hear it and I was like, did that originate from this movie? And it did.
Yeah,
Um and it's get busy living or get busy dying.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I've thought about that a lot in the past week, and it's basically fueled me to like go out and do my track workouts and runs and stuff
yeah.
like that. It's like, what are you doing sitting on a couch? Obviously, I have to sit on a couch and watch a movie for this podcast, but other than that, like what the fuck are you doing? Go lace up your shoes, put on some contact lenses, put on some glasses, and go run. I
if
don't
you've
necessarily need contacts, but
Yeah, yeah. If you've ever been through an existential crisis, you would know that those words are pretty much what you at the end of your existential crisis, you're either not here on Earth anymore, or you have decided that you are going to quite literally get busy dying, or get busy, or like towards the very end, like, dude, I just got to get busy living or get busy dying, and then that's your decision. You're either gonna to off yourself, or you're gonna fucking get after it. I'm speaking from my own mind here, but that's how I took it. And I think if you've ever gone through an existential crisis, then that's pretty much what this is. But another quote I had was, "Bad luck, it floats around. It's got to land on somebody." And that to me is just like shit, you know? I mean, it's a really good quote, but
yeah.
very sad at the same time. Um, but terrific. I
I mean, I think that's what Andy was thinking with his prison sentence is like, I got a bad beat. I got bad luck. It's nothing I can really control, but what I can control is this wall in my prison, and I can just chisel the fuck out of it.
Perseverance.
Do you think you could escape prison? Like, is that something? I mean,
No.
I've seen Prison Break, the TV show, all seasons of it. With that, I don't know, maybe
No, not now, for sure not. There's too many cameras. Back then, maybe. I
this was much
mean,
more common. Yeah.
yeah, back then, maybe. Probably not. Statistically, I would just have to say no. But with that said, it would be tough.
Where would you go if you escaped prison? Would you go to like a small town in Ohio, or would you go to Mexico?
Probably go to Mexico. That seems like
Italy.
the reasonable approach here. I would have to go somewhere by land. I would assume getting on a plane would be just. I don't even know. I mean,
Difficult.
is it getting on a? I'm like Nate Bergancy talking about like time travels. Like, how are you going to tell somebody in 1920 about cell phones? They're like, how does this work? I'm like, I don't know. The satellites.
The
How does
satellite?
a satellite work? I don't know. It'd be like that. Like, I don't even know what the scenario would be. To like, what kind of documents did you need? Catch me if you can. I don't. Was it the 50s? 60s
Yeah, something like that.
probably.
50s, 60s,
Yeah,
60s,
because that
yeah.
guy's still alive and he gives like talks. Maybe even
Frank
70s.
Abagnale
Look at
Jr.
that. So I think I'd have to believe maybe I could get on a flight, but nonetheless, I Italy sounds like a great place to be because you're just with back at that moment. You'd probably fit in.
Yeah.
You'd fit in well. I have a couple
Fun fact
points.
about
Okay,
okay. I have some fun facts.
let's do the fun facts.
Um, just really interesting. It takes place in a penitentiary in Maine, but the actual shooting location and the place that they filmed it was this old prison in Mansfield, Ohio. And after the filming of this movie, it was great location scouting, by the way.
Yeah,
Um, they were planned on to demolish it, and a group of like film lovers and advocates and things like that like petitioned to buy it and maintain it, and they bought it for $1, and they've been
what?
maintaining it, and they get about $16.9 million annually in bus tours revenue, guided tours, merchandise, things like
That's
that.
wild.
Yeah.
My dear, we should have done the podcast there.
In the penitentiary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fresh fish.
That's that's unreal. So I have I have two things to note quickly. Like the chatter in Andy's cell when he's missing is terrific. It's also terrific in the book of just like the discussion of like looking up his, oh my god, what's happening? Did he kill himself? Because he seemed off the night before,
Yeah.
and he was off for a variety of reasons, but he was off
Well, he was
as you
in
might
the hole
imagine.
for
But people were concerned that he had committed suicide, and so when he didn't come out, that discussion of like what's going on here is so good. And it took a very long time, of course. Everyone got interviewed. Like, where is Andy? Nothing is broken. This is very strange. He's got to be here. So they took like 12 hours to actually send off the sirens, if you will. And then at the time, it was like 20 hours since he had escaped. But anyway,
so he's gone. He's long gone.
Long gone. So I wanted to mention this, and I don't know many. There are movies that are better that I understand better. This is a pretty simple movie to understand. And for whatever it's worth, I think as time goes on, and this is like top of my list of movies that I can say this about. This movie gets better with my own age. And I can't think of one that is actually better than this at doing that. And it just like you can see as being an adult the perseverance that's required to continue, to have that hope. And the way that Andy just presents himself, it's not just like noticing things here and there. It's just the fact that I appreciate this movie actually, I think more so each time I watch it. And hopefully in the next 6-7 years, I watch it again and it's the same, but it's a joy to watch. And to some extent, like Forrest Gump comes to mind of like things that I enjoy it slightly more, but also slightly less for particular reasons. But like it's joyful, so it's good. But like this one it's just so nice. And I think ultimately speaking, I'll wrap up this in a minute, but like the constant shit that Andy had to go through, if you were to tell me at the end of the movie it's going to end up in this packaged bow like format, I'd be like, get this fucking movie out of my face. I hate it when movies do this. And it's one of the very few movies where everything goes right, like to a T goes right. Morgan Freeman gets out. He gets and makes his way to Zahu Taneo.
Yeah. Say the name. I want to hear it.
Zahua Taneo. I don't know. You could say it, but
he's in a beach in Mexico.
The constant shit he had to go through to get there, literally and figuratively.
Literally, yeah.
By the end of it, you were like, if he doesn't get there, this is going to be a disappointment almost. And so when he actually gets to the beach, Red does, I was like, this is outstanding. And like, it's funny because the first time I watched it, and I was like, this can end right now. Like, I don't want to see what happens next. I don't want to see anything end it right now. And it did. I was like, this is, God, that outstanding. But I really can't say that about many movies. I guess you have to go through a whole host of shit for years to get there.
It's funny. It's funny. They were teetering back and forth on how to end this film, and should they show Red meeting Andy on the beach, and they did some test screenings with audience, which they typically do, and the overwhelmingly support was like, yes, we need to see them on the beach together.
Yeah,
like the movie doesn't work, and yeah, granted, it is a very kind of like very sentimental ending, but it's what it calls for, what the movie needs after spending time with them in prison. You need that.
They're friends. They're friends again on the outside, which is outstanding. And it just in the book, it doesn't end like that. It ends with just having hope. And basically, like he's gonna go try to meet him. And again, I think the movie took the liberty to change things and did it in the best way possible. It's great. I think as well, like another weird fact about this, or not fact, but it's so weird to me. Like if you like, I stopped myself 20 times, and I kind of knew what was going to happen. He's okay. Like he's going to escape. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. But then I just totally forgot it, almost instantaneously forgot about those moments of like, I think this is going to happen, because I was so engrossed with the here and now that I just like completely forgot about it. Oftentimes in movies, like it's so predictable that like you kind of get
Yeah.
lost in like that predictability. But this one, I was like, the story's so good. I'm just like, I want to know more right now of what's going to happen.
Well, think about
So
this.
nice.
Like Andy was put in the hole for 30 days and then another 30 days or whatever it was, right? And then literally the next day when he's out and he has to shine the shoes and do all that, he escapes. So thinking about this in the back of his mind, hold up, he's got the escape line hatched, ready to go,
Yeah,
just waiting for a thunderstorm to come so he can get out of the tunnels. But the whole time in the hole for 2 months or whatever it is, he knows that he can escape.
yeah,
And that kind of blew my mind watching it again because I didn't realize that earlier on.
yeah. That's God.
Crazy.
I doing all that work, and
And the
then
fact that he takes the shoes, the shine shoes,
yeah,
wears them, just a big middle finger to the warden. Love it.
yeah. Good movie.
The
It
only
was all right.
the only problem is that there was no like football game in this movie. Um, but whatever. You can only have one, I guess.
Well, maybe football didn't exist in this time period.
Definitely did. Definitely did. Again, with the longest yard, one thing that I forgot to mention is I love, love, love when movies bring in actual like news or TV or ESPN people.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you got that with like Chris Berman, Jim Rome, and Dan Patrick. Um, and the fact that they were going to show this on ESPN as a prison football movie, like that would never happen. It would be on ESPN Ocho, not actual ESPN. But
I also very much enjoy that.
although Jim Rome I don't like that guy. Did you ever see his interview with Jim Everett?
Jim Everett. Yeah, there was a podcast. The guy who does, or used to do the Super 70s. Do you know that guy? I'm supposed
No.
to meet him in Chicago. God, I can't remember his name, but I love his stuff so much. He just basically takes pictures of the 70s and like nostalgia. It's basically what he posts, nostalgic stuff. He interviewed Jim Everett to go over exactly what was going through his brain. Jim Rohn, I guess I actually got canceled after that for 6 months and then got brought back and then started making $30 million a year. So he crushed. He did pretty well for
Yeah.
himself. But Jim Everett was talking about how if he calls him Chris again, like, he's going to get up, pushes the table down, gets to him. And then I think in the words of Jim Everett said, he folded like a little rabbit. And so he got on top of him. He's like, he folded like a little rabbit. Like, what was I going to do? Like punch him on the ground? Like, he's like, I won. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, he's just
Yeah.
like, this is ridiculous. But I have seen it. Yes, it's terrific. He deserved it. Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, Jim Rome has a very punchable face. So I'm surprised he didn't actually punch him. But if you fold that quickly,
Yeah.
you do.
So I guess we can get to our ratings now. What are your thoughts?
Okay. Yeah, ratings. This was a close one. Boy, was it. I have the Shawshank Redemption. We'll go with that one first. Is that okay, or do you want to do
No,
the longest yard?
We can do the Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank's a great movie. First time director and Frank Darabont. Editing, score, performances. The writing is what really stood out for me. That was like one of my highest scores there. But yeah, it's a 91.1 for me.
So I think this is the best movie that we have seen on this podcast. And I would actually say, I'd be willing to bet it's more of by far. And I would say that it's almost a perfect movie, and I really would have to nitpick to come up with something better. It has some of the best lines, some of the best directing, some of the actors matching everything to do with it. The screenplay is unbelievable. But I
It's a
think
great story.
it's an almost perfect movie, and
Executed very well.
I give it a 97.1.
Whew. I like it. I like it.
I'm gonna go with the longest yard first. And so it is a movie, and I think,
It,
but yeah, it was a fun I actually would prefer to do The Longest Yard, just because I think it's better for you viewers to hear some of these stories of all the travesties that I have to go through while being a podcast co-host with Steven. It sometimes hurts, and you know what? Sometimes
Hurts in the best
you
way.
gotta hurt him back. And so The Longest Yard performances could have been a little better. So the ratings, it's not going to be as rich as you might imagine. But I will say this: we do have two movies on the bottom and top end of the spectrum, and we do have a new biggest loser, at least for my own rating, and I rated it a 59.5.
Wow. Okay.
So upseating Mortal Kombat. I mean, to
You
be
think Mortal
honest,
Kombat's better than The
yeah.
Longest Yard?
Oh my god, by far, yes. Like, there's not even a yes. Yes.
Was there any enjoyment though in watching The Longest Yard? There has to be, right?
Of course, and as there's a lot of enjoyment for watching Mortal Kombat, but does that make it a good movie? Both of them, no. Collectively, no. They're terrible movies, but they're fantastic to watch. I can watch terrible movies. I love Bloodsport. Speaking of, coming up.
Coming up. All right, mine's a 76 for The Longest Yard. I'm not going to explain myself in any front for that, but 76.
That's wild.
Who would be your person that you call, your first call, 10-minute call that you got to reach out to?
I'll tell you a story, and it's a quick one. I was asked, or I stated this yesterday or 2 days ago, and I said, if I were to make a list of the top 18 people that I could have that call for, my wife would probably be 19. Because she never picks up the phone. And if she does, the call is back in like 5 or 6 minutes. Maybe more.
I mean, would she pick up a number she didn't recognize?
Absolutely not. But to be honest with you, I would call myself. If I can call myself, I would call myself because I know that I would pick up. But if I had somebody, I would probably call Mark. I'd call Mark. He's like, he would immediately dive his life into fixing the situation. He would stop everything in his power and he'd be like, what do we need? And like, just, he would go crazy. He'd go insane working it out. So
what do you think you're in for? What did you do?
Killing a co-host of my podcast, I would imagine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Or like,
you better have a good alibi.
Or like finding explosives with the blueprint of Steven's house, and or like the building of a torture chamber in my basement quadrant.
Torture chamber.
Yeah, and how to, like.
I'm just glad I had these for protection.
How to torture humans named Steven for a long period of times, but keeping them alive, but not hurting them too bad, but keeping them alive and then hurting them again. Yeah, how to make.
I'm basically
get
an
X-ray machine. Get an X-ray machine, not an X-ray machine, a miniature machine to make you smaller. And like my wife said to me, make you small and put you in a big bathtub and like drown you, but almost drown you. All of these would be viable options, and probably why I would be in jail. Yeah.
Okay, cool. What's next week?
What would you do? Whew, what is next week? I don't even know.
Recovery.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So we have Recovery and two movies that I've watched already. One is Flight.
Cool. Yeah, we're gonna have another guest on the podcast, Alex Martin, and we're gonna do Flight and Smashed.
Fun times
two
ahead
about recovery. So,
and we have the next 5 weeks planned after that, folks. So be excited.
Follow us on all socials.
Okay.
Scene Weekly. There we go.
Goodbye.